Hello everybody, Peter the Book Lover. I want to thank you for clicking on my channel. Today I'm doing a video to where I'm going to talk about a haul, and then I'm going to talk about a reading update, and that's about it. I'm not going to make too long of a video. This of course is my cat Shy Kitty. He's an awesome kitty and I love him very much. Had him since he's a baby. He's missing part of his rear right leg, but he's a whole kitty to me. I love him. And we're going to welcome you. I'm Peter the Book Lover. I have a YouTube channel to where I talk about books and movies, and I have a great time doing it. And let's start off with the Hall of Eight. Now, this first book I'm going to show you is pretty bizarre. This is Basil of Baker Street by Eve Titus. And this is a mouse that lives in the home of Sherlock Holmes. And because Sherlock Holmes is a great detective, this mouse apparently is a great detective. And this is a cute short story. It's a children's novel, but I really enjoy doing them. I'm going to talk a little bit about my new reading habits, and I include a lot of children's literature in my reading habits. So the next book I'm going to show you is two from Mark Twain. I got stuck a little bit. But this one is The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, but this is written by Samuel L. Clemens. And the reason why I have this isn't because I needed a copy of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. I have this because it is written by Samuel L. Clemens, and I just thought this was really cool, and this could go great with my collection. Although I really didn't need this one because I already have a really nice copy of Tom Sawyer. And this is Mark Twain's speeches. And this, this is a bunch of speeches by Mark Twain. And that could be a lot of fun. Mark Twain has a wonderful mind. Okay, then I have this book right here. This is Stay Alive by Rodman Philbrick. And this is pretty much about the Donner Party. And that's a really fascinating story. If you remember in the beginning of The Shining, when they're riding up to the hotel in the in the mountains, they talk about the Donner Party, and the Donner Party is where these people had to resort to cannibalism to stay alive. And this is another children's novel, but looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. The next one I have is Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes by Susan Collins. Now, I read The Hunger Games, and I plan on reading the other two books of the series, but then after that, I'm going to read this. That's the order they came out, and, after I read those, I plan on reading this. And it should be very entertaining because that's the way they came out, so looks really interesting, and I'm really excited to have a copy of that. Now, the next book I have here is Fever 1793, and this is written by Laurie Hassel Anderson. Hasley Anderson. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the middle name correctly, but Laurie Anderson wrote this book, and this is Fever of 1793, and the thing about it is I've read a book about the American plague, about the yellow fever epidemic in America. They didn't know it was a yellow fever when it was happening, but we know now that it's yellow fever that this was, and it was a pretty bad epidemic for the people in America of this time. Hold on one second. Go on. Sorry, I don't edit my videos. But, okay, so let's get into the next one. I have, by Raymond Chandler, The Long Goodbye. Now, I've read The Big Sleep. I've read it twice. Really excellent book. I really loved it a lot. I have one other Raymond Chandler book that I plan on reading. But yeah, this is The Long Goodbye, and I'm really excited to have this. This should be a really good one. And here's another classic right here. This is by D.H. Lawrence, and this is Lady Chatterley's Lover. And this is a classic that I've heard about. It's got an interesting cover. I don't know if this is the classic cover that it first came out, but it really gives you an idea what this story is about, because every picture he's complaining, and I guess her lover is a really big complainer. So looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And the last book I'm going to show you is a nice copy of a Charles Dickens novel called Nicholas Nickleby. And I'm really excited to have a copy of Nicholas Nickleby. I really loved Charles Dickens. He's a really great author. And I'm really happy that I have this book. And it's a really nice copy. You know, it really is. And I'm going to have fun reading that. So there's a haul of 8. I'm really excited to have these new books, and I eventually plan on getting around reading them, but it's going to take me some time because I have a lot of reading. Now, I have a new technique that I read books now. I have a reread, then I have a book that I'm reading that's an adult first time read, and then I have children's books that where they're first time reads. And it's kind of book juggling, and it's a really interesting way to read. And yeah, I really don't get lost track because I'm only doing 3 at a time. I'm also sometimes read the Fall of the House of the Usher. I've read that 11 times, and I'm going to read that again. But right now I've been pretty much focusing on this book right here. This is my reread, and this is The Last of the Mohicans by James Fenimore Cooper. And the thing about it is I really enjoyed it the first time. But now that I'm reading it again, it's a little bit more clear, and I'm enjoying it a little bit more. And it's actually giving me an idea of making a list of great chapters from books, because chapter 17 in this book is one of the most brutal chapters that you could read. It's really brutal. Chapter 17 is extremely brutal. I'm on chapter 20, and I'm really enjoying this a lot. Okay, and then this is the book that I'm reading for the first time. This is about the Civil War. This is Battle Cry for Freedom by James McPherson, and this is a really interesting Civil War book. I've learned a lot of things from this, although it is a very long book. This is will take me longer to read than Gone with the Wind. But there's a lot of interesting things that I learned from this book. One really interesting thing that I learned is that the battleships, the modern battleships, really the prototypes for those ships were made during the Civil War. They were called ironclads, and they were a different kind of boat. And everybody thought they looked very funny at first, but they turned out to be very effective in naval battles. And another thing that happened during the Civil War was there's some advances that they made in healthcare, and there's methods like when the Civil War started, chances are if you got gangrene, they just chop off your leg. But I believe there's ways to treat it, and also the way the nurses were, they started incorporated female nurses. At first it was just males, but they eventually made female nurses. And also they had a designated unit. There was like an ambulance unit, and it's really interesting. I'm right now at page 638, and now I'm just getting to the Battle of Gettysburg, and it's really interesting, and I'm enjoying it a lot. It's a little long though. It's a tedious book, and not every part of this book is really exciting, but at the same time it's got a lot of interesting stuff in that book. So I'm also, at the same time, I've read 5 of these books. These are short little history books. This one's Alexander Hamilton, and what I've learned from this is Alexander Hamilton got killed in a duel by Aaron Burr, which was the vice president of Thomas Jefferson, and Aaron Burr was a really awful character. Also, his son died about 3 years before he actually got killed in a battle. Yeah, and this is one of the founding fathers. He was the first Treasury of the United States. He wasn't born in America. He was born in the Indie Islands. You know, that's really close to America, but it wasn't quite America. And yeah, he came to this country. He fought in the Civil War. It's George Washington is mentioned in this short book, and it's really interesting. I've read this a couple times. All these books I've read twice, and I've read this one 3 times though, and this one was really interesting, and I enjoyed that. And then I also read this one. This is about the Boston Tea Party in 1773, December 16th, and it was a really interesting part of our history. It really started the Revolutionary War. There was a stamp tax they put, and then the Americas protested it, and then they drew it back, but they kept this tea tax, and the Americans didn't want to have it, so they made this party, the Boston Tea Party. All these people got dressed up as Indians, and they destroyed a bunch of tea. And interesting thing, these crates of tea were like 400 pounds. So, and they crushed open these crates, and tea was everywhere, man. It's like a really interesting story. Samuel Adams is in this story quite a bit. He was one of he was kind of a big part of our government. And Samuel Adams beer actually has a picture of Paul Revere, not Samuel Adams, on the cover, which was pretty interesting. Then I read this, What Were the Salem Witch Trials? And this was pretty interesting. Yeah, in 1692, there was these girls that started acting like they were being infected by witches, and then they blamed their maid, and they started having these trials. This event went on for about a year, and I think 18 people were hung. And interesting thing, I always thought the Salem witch trials were people getting burned, you know, getting set on fire, but that happened in England. That didn't happen in America. They hung the people in America. Yeah, this was in Massachusetts, and it's pretty interesting. I really enjoyed it. Very very wild story, man. I felt sorry for all the people that were being accused as witches. And then we've got this. This is the Gold Rush. This was in 1849, but it started a little bit earlier. There was this fort they had by a river, and they were making a sawmill. And as they're building this sawmill, they actually discovered gold. And then eventually word got out, and all these people started going to California to search for gold. And it created these boom towns, and it created San Francisco. And it's a really interesting story. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, you learned a lot about how they mined for gold and everything. And part of this is the story of Levi's jeans. Levi Strauss is a guy that came to America from Germany, I believe. And he kind of started this Levi Strauss company. And we still wear jeans today. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing a pair right now. And then the last book that I have that's actually, helped me to understand what I'm about to read in the Battle Cry of Freedom is the Battle of Gettysburg. What was the Battle of Gettysburg? And yeah, this was a 3-day battle in Pennsylvania, Gettysburg. Gettysburg was a town that wasn't even known, and eventually, see that what this battle was Robert E. Lee was actually invading the North. He was planning on, because they were winning a lot in the South, so he decided he was going to invade the North, and it was a 3-day battle. It was one of the bloodiest battles of history. And an interesting thing, there was one of the generals, Ewell, and the other one, what's his name? Lexington or something like that. I forgot the name of the other man, but he kept on saying that we need to retreat and not fight this battle and rest our troops and refresh them and then attack. but he didn't listen to him. He listened to Yule, and he should have listened to the other guy because they wound up retreating anyways, but after a bunch of people got killed. And then at the end of this book, you have the Gettysburg Address by Abraham Lincoln. You had another guy that was talking for like 2 hours, and then Abraham Lincoln did a 2-minute speech, and people didn't think much when he said it, but it turns out that it was a really, really important speech. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what I have planned next. So the next 5 books of the children books that I'm going to read, I'm going to do 5 at a time. And I've already started with this one, Who Was Betsy Ross? And yeah, she was, it's pretty interesting so far. They say that there's no actual proof that she came up with the flag, but there is a story about her. They came to her with a square drawing with 6-point stars, but then she said, no, you need to make it longer, and you also need to change those to 5-point stars because it was easier for her to make 5-point stars. So yeah, and it's pretty interesting. She was married twice, so you know. Betsy Ross is she was a husband of John Ross, and he died like after 2 years of them being married, which is pretty sad. And then after that, I'm going to be reading what is the Declaration of Independence. That's coming up, our 250th anniversary of America, which is a pretty interesting thing. What is the U.S. Constitution? When I was in school, I was a little bit bored with that, but now as I'm older, I'm actually interested in learning about that. This is Who Was Sacagawea? And this is going to be a lot about the Lewis and Clark expedition. So this should be really interesting. And yeah, that's the Lewis and Clark expedition is a really interesting story, and I'm really looking forward to that. And then what is D-Day? Yeah, and this is another really interesting part of American history. This is where we invaded Germany and succeeded. So it's really cool. Now my next reread is that I'm going to be rereading this. This is The Golden Compass. I read this very recently. I read this like last month, and I enjoyed it. But it's kind of a unique story, so it's really hard to grasp it. But I've actually watched the movie now, and watching the movie, I actually want to read this again, because the movie was pretty good, but they actually switched a couple things around in the movie, and I'm pretty sure, and I can understand it a little bit better after watching the movie. Like and there's a lot of good actors in that movie. It was a pretty decent movie, but you could tell that it wasn't as good as the book. And yeah, I want to reread this again anyways. This was a lot of fun the first time, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to enjoy it a lot more the second time that I read this. And then the next adult read that I'm going to read The Gunslinger by Stephen King. And it's about time that I read this book. There's a lot of other people on YouTube that are reading this book right now, and I'm going to read the original copy with the artwork, and it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to have artwork with it. And then I don't have any other plans than that, but I mean, well, I do. I have more of the Who, What Is book series. But then after I get done with The Dark Tower, I plan on reading The Children of Hurin. This is by James R.R. Tolkien. And this is a story that was set before The Hobbit, before The Ring was even made. So this looks like it's going to be really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to checking this book out. So that's it. I want to thank you for being by. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. That would mean a lot to me. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, that's about it. I'm Peter the Book Lover. I want to thank you for coming by, and I hope to see you in the next video. See you next time.